All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. There's a question came in earlier, just want to clarify, and that is, there's a question on Shabbos. There's a question on Shabbos about making tea, or let's say making a hot drink in general. Let's say you want to make I don't know, tea's a good example, I guess, if or whatever, any hot drink, doesn't really matter. The problem is that if I have an urn, right? If I have a urn that's on the fire, let's say it has whatever, it's already hot before Shabbos, right? Because you can't heat it up on Shabbos. So if I would take hot water, right, let's make clear, something on the fire is called a first vessel, right? It's called the first vessel. We call it Keli Rishon. If I pour, let's say, from this onto something else, into another vessel, right, into another, let's say another cup, that other cup is called the Sheni, right, a second vessel. And if I take that hot water and I pour that into a third cup, that's called the Shlishi, right, a third vessel. Now, in general, just tell you how it works. A first vessel, if I have a pot on the fire, right, I have hot water on the fire. Now, it doesn't mean it's directly on the fire. Even if I have an urn, it's plugged into the wall, same thing, no difference. No difference. So that's considered like a first vessel. So if I pour water from that into anything, that first vessel cooks. So if I put anything into that first vessel, into that first pot, let's say, it'll cook because it's piping hot. Now, if I pour hot water, let's say into a clean cup, that hot water going into that clean cup is called the second Keli Sheni, a second vessel. Right now, in general, a second vessel does not cook. Right? It usually never cooks. Why? Because we hold the walls of the bowl or the cup or whatever it is, cools it down. Now, there's only one problem. The problem is that if I put something in it that cooks very easily, bread, let's say, or fish, that in order to finish cooking it, let's say I put hot water on it. Now, something like that, if the water is piping hot means Yad Soledes Bo, same thing. It means if I put my finger near it, I have to pull it away. It's too hot. So a person's going to say, okay, a second vessel, we say, doesn't cook. But if it's something that easily cooks, and I put it in that, guess what? It cooks. But we said it normally doesn't cook. If it's piping hot, it cooks. The walls are not gonna cool it off quick enough. That's the point. The walls will not cool it off quick enough. But if it was there for a while, let's say 10 minutes, let's say you had soup. Soup was on the flame. You take the soup off, you pour the soup into a bowl. So if I have something in the bowl, that's my second vessel, my Keli Sheni. It doesn't normally cook. But if I have something that's easily cooked and I put hot soup, it's going to cook. But if I put hot soup, so if I had water, let's say I washed off this bowl. I didn't wash off the bowl good enough. It's still a little bit wet. If it's still a little bit wet, then guess what? It's going to cook the water. If it's completely dry, very good. Right? But over time, 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, it's not going to be that hot. Right? It shouldn't still be that hot. Right? So that's a Keli Sheni, a second vessel. A third vessel, if I pour that, let's say, again, I take hot water from my urn, I put it in a second cup. I put it in a cup. I pour it in a cup. That cup is a second vessel, Keli Sheni. Now I pour that cup of water into a third cup. That third cup is called a Keli Shlishi. A Keli Shlishi, we hold, never cooks. But there's another caveat. There's another caveat over here. Why? Because in that third vessel, what if I have, let's say, a tea bag? Let's say I have a tea bag in there. And I didn't heat up the tea bag. Let's say. I didn't heat it up before Shabbos. All right, so now what do I have? My tea bag over here hasn't been cooked. Right? So according to many rabbinic authorities, if I pour hot water in my third vessel and I have a tea bag in there, should be okay. Why? Because it doesn't cook. A third vessel never cooks. What's the problem? Problem is the rabbinical authorities hold if it's piping hot, it doesn't matter if it's in the third vessel. You can pour that into a fourth vessel, a fifth vessel, an eighth vessel. Doesn't matter, from cup to cup to cup, it's still hot. Still piping hot, right? So many rabbinical authorities hold, in that case, if I had a tea bag in a third cup or a fourth cup or a fifth cup, and the water I pour on it is piping hot, it's going to cook it. But others, including Ramosha Feinstein of blessed memory, Torah giant in America, according to everybody, last generation, he held in the third vessel, when the Gemara says it never cooks, it never cooks. Even something easily cooked doesn't matter. Since we hold it doesn't matter, according to him, I could put a tea bag into a cup. I could take another cup, take my hot water from the fire, my first vessel, pour it into a second cup. Right, that's my second vessel. Then pour it into my tea bag, and I'd be allowed to do that. If you hold like Ramosha Feinstein, fine. If you don't hold like Ramosha Feinstein, so then you wouldn't be allowed to do this. You make tea essence first. You make tea essence before Shabbos. Otherwise, even if it's a fourth vessel, a fifth vessel, a 10th vessel, you keep pouring from cup to cup to cup to cup. What happens? You cook it because it's piping hot. Doesn't help. Right? So over here, if a person makes a hot drink, we'll just flush this out, makes a hot drink in a third vessel, i.e. a dry cup, right? A dry cup that was poured from my second cup, which was got the hot water from my what's it called? From my urn over here. So in other words, I take hot water from my urn. That's the first vessel, Keli Rishon. Keli Rishon always cooks. Pour that onto something, it's going to cook it. I take that now and put it into a dry cup. What's that dry cup? It's called the Keli Sheni, right? It's called the second vessel, right? I transfer the hot water for the Keli Rishon, i.e. from the kettle or the urn, let's say better, on my urn. That's a Keli Rishon, first vessel. Then I pour it into a cup, pour that hot water into a cup. That cup is called the Keli Sheni, right? The second vessel. And then I take another cup. I pour it into, I take that cup, my Keli Sheni, I pour it into a third cup. I pour it into a second cup, right? My second cup over here, my second cup is called the Keli Shlishi. So if this Keli Sheni, again, my first cup that I took hot water from my urn, if it needed to be filled a few times, right? In other words, let's say I have a big cup. I wanted a lot of hot water. So I need to take a few times to make a few cups to drink, let's say. Do I have to dry the cup every time? No. Why not? Because the hot water there. If I left it for a little bit and then I poured hot water, different issue. Totally different issue. But if I still have hot water in there and I pour from my Keli Rishon again, right, from my urn, and I pour it into this cup, guess what? Doesn't do anything. Why? Because the water that's left in there is still hot. Or at least it's warm. Right? At least it's either hot or warm. Do I have a problem? No, I didn't cook anything. right? So I don't have to keep doing that. I don't have to dry it, right? That's the point over here. I don't have to dry it every time. Why? Because if it's hot enough and I just pour hot water again, doesn't do anything. It's not going to cook it. So as soon as the water has been poured into a kli shlishi, now I take that water that's in my first cup, which is my second vessel. And again, my urn is my first vessel, Keli Rishon. I pour that into my cup, my first cup. That's called the Kli Sheni, right? And then I pour that into a Kli Shlishi. I pour it into another cup, right? My second cup or my third vessel over here. So then I can refill the cup without having to check to see if it's dry. Why? Because it doesn't cook, right? You hold the corner of Moshe Feinstein, doesn't cook. That's not going to be a problem. What would be the issue if you don't hold like Moshe Feinstein? If you add a little bit of water that was not dry, let's say, right? Because it's water, it's not dry, right? It's cold, right? Well, you have a little bit of water left in the cup, left in my third cup. So if I don't hold like Moshe Feinstein, I pour from my second cup into that, my first cup, which is my second vessel. It sounds a little bit confusing, but there are only two cups here, but the first cup is the second vessel because the first hot water urn is the first vessel. So the first cup is my second vessel, first cup, and my second cup is my third vessel. So the problem is, if you don't hold according to Moshe Feinstein, what happens? The water that's left there is going to get cooked. You tell me that a third vessel never cooks, okay? Right? But other rabbinic authorities held that if it's piping hot, even if the third vessel, you tell me, doesn't cook, it's going to cook it. So there's a fundamental disagreement of opinion between the later rabbinic authorities. If you hold like Moshe Feinstein, people in America hold like him, so then I could take my tea bag in the third vessel. If I didn't put hot water on the tea bag before, I didn't make tea essence before. So if I put the hot water in my tea bag, my second cup, i.e. my third vessel, you would hold it's fine. Why is it fine? Because it doesn't cook. Other rabbinic authorities say can't do that. Other rabbinic authorities say make tea essence. Put hot water on the tea bag before Shabbos and take the tea bag out. Then you have a problem. If you take the tea bag out, maybe it's selection. The problem of selection. So there are ways around it, but the point is that in my third vessel, according to Moshe Feinstein, I can put my tea bag, hot water, not a problem. According to other rabbinic authorities, third vessel, even though you tell me it doesn't cook, this is going to cook. Because if I put my finger in that third vessel, my second cup, right? It's piping hot, right? It's definitely, Yatzaledisbo. It's piping hot over here. If I stick my finger in, which I don't recommend, you can try it at home. You stick your finger in, you got to pull it out straight away. That cooks. So if I have something that's easily cooked, and I had that in my second cup or my third vessel, I can't put hot water in it, right? Or I cannot put something that easily cooks in there with it, because that's going to cook it. Moshe Feinstein would hold it's not a problem. Why? Because it never cooks. So it shouldn't be an issue, right? Nonetheless, other rabbinic authorities hold not that way, right? Even if you tell me let's say I take soup, I pour it in my bowl. The soup right now is piping hot. According to everybody, it's piping hot. If I had a little bit of water in that bowl, and I poured hot soup in it, guess what? That water gets cooked straight away. Right? In the third vessel, we'll have a difference of opinion. Everyone would agree in the second vessel it cooks. A third vessel, difference of opinion. Moshe Feinstein would hold it doesn't cook. So if I poured hot water on it, not a problem. According to other rabbinic authorities, if it's piping hot, it cooks. Right? That's what it means. Right? That is what that's what it means over here. I hope that is clear. It's a little bit confusing terminology, right? But I hope that is hope that's clear. Somebody asks, are competitive sports games bad? Someone has to lose, always creates negative feelings. Is it bad to play or interact in competition? Oh, good question. Sounds like controversial issues type of topic. Well, when we hit that when we spoke about the Super Bowl, right? Every year. I did last few years anyway, done controversial issues. And that happened to coincide when I was giving it on Sunday, happened to coincide with the Super Bowl. So we sort of hit that topic. So are competitive game sports bad? Not necessarily. Right? If you for exercise, definitely good. Right? I think it's definitely good. The problem is exactly what you mentioned. That someone's got to lose. Okay, that's true. Someone definitely has to lose. I don't think that's necessarily the worst part of the problem. Right? The question is about sportsmanship. And when you get caught up in games, sportsmanship sometimes, I'm not saying always, but a lot of times sportsmanship goes out the window. Why? Because you want to show up the other person. You want to show you're better than the other person. Now, is that being conceited? Certainly. Right? It doesn't matter if you're better or not. Right? But, if you're better, you beat, you beat the person to the goal, whatever it is. Okay. You get a goal. But if you're rubbing it in their face and you're not showing good sportsmanship, yeah, that's a problem. That 100% is a problem. I remember many years ago, that they have here in Israel 2-hand touch, what I call football. So I played and wasn't that long because I got so disgusted I couldn't play. Right? Well, what was the reason? Because there were people there that were hot dogs. I mean, hot dogs being they were showing off, acting like, what professional athletes do, and that's not good. That is just not good. First of all, you shouldn't be imitating these people for anything because nothing they do is good in general. It's all about showboating and showing up the other person and this and that. Right? There are some people that do have sportsmanship. I'm not going to throw everyone under the bus, but I'm going to throw a lot of them under the bus. A lot of them under the bus because, yeah, it's about showboating and whatever, and gives a lot of bad character traits. A lot of bad character traits. How they talk, what they do, et cetera. So someone will say, I just want to watch the game. But you're watching people that, bad character traits. So if the question is playing competitive sports bad, I wouldn't necessarily say it's bad. Right? For exercise, it's definitely good. Right? That I would agree. That 100%. I wouldn't have I wouldn't have an issue with, for exercise. The fact that someone wins, someone loses, yeah, it's part of the game. In any game you play. Girls can jump rope. Some can jump rope better than others. Right? So some are gonna be there longer or not. Right? So someone wins, someone, I'm not gonna say they lose, they just don't get as long of a turn. Let's say. Or, it's like any game. Person plays Monopoly. They play Risk. They play Stratego. They play other games. Whatever it is. Someone wins, someone loses. Chess. Backgammon, checkers, any of these things. Right? You're going to have a winner and you're going to have a loser. Right? But you're right. Someone's going to lose. Could it create negative feelings? It could. People don't like to lose. There are people that don't like to lose. Right? That, and they're sore losers. So yeah, that's bad. But someone, you have two sides. Someone's going to lose. 100% someone's going to lose. Right? So if you're playing, and you're playing for fun or whatever, it shouldn't be an issue. Right? It shouldn't be an issue. If it's going to lead to bad character traits, that's another issue. So in the Orthodox world, I will tell you, except in the, let's say better, in the modern Orthodox world, they have they have games between different schools, right? Just like they would in public school. Well, have a basketball league. I don't know. Usually they have like an interleague basketball. I think. Oh, they play football, 2-hand touch. I don't know. I think they have basketball leagues for sure. So in the outdoor Orthodox world, you won't see that. Now, why won't you see that? First of all, again, if it's for exercise, I wouldn't have as much of an issue, right? If it's exercise, but if they're doing it and they're spending all their time practicing, a different issue, right? It was just a pickup game, they have off, they've recessed 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, like here in Israel, they'll kick around a soccer ball, let's say, whatever. Okay. 15, 20 minutes, very good. But if you're spending all your time doing that, that's what they don't want. So that's kind of a catch-22, right? They want the kids to run around, get their energy out, maybe get a little bit of exercise. Okay. Right. Nothing wrong with that. Question is, what does it represent? What does it represent? So in the ultra-Orthodox schools, past a certain age, they don't allow it. They don't allow it. What's the reason? What's the main reason? Because of what's associated with. Like here in Israel, what is soccer or football, as most people would call it? What is associated with desecration of Shabbos? That's what it's associated with. Right? So they don't want people following it, not really having anything to do with it. You want to kick a soccer ball around? Okay. Right? By a certain age, they're gonna nip it in the bud and say no. This is not what you should be doing. Do something else. Right? It's, again, physical activity is good. I'm not saying not. But what they're going to hammer the points is they don't want you to be like these disgusting people that play. And most of them are. Most of their character traits, again, I'm not going to say everybody. Right? I grew up as a sports fan also. Right? I'm not going to say everybody, has bad ethics and bad morals, but a lot of them do. A lot of them do. Right? I know someone that played in college. Played in college, and I asked them point blank. I said, I'm sure in the locker room you picked up a lot of good things. And he said, we're not going there. Because this person and I knew. People you're dealing with. Again, people may take issue with this, and they can. Are these the most well-groomed people you've ever seen? No. Are they the most moral people? No. Only have, what's the evidence? Talking about professional sports, what's the evidence? See what goes on in the offseason. How many people get arrested? How many people, are put in jail or different things? It happens all the time. All the time. So the values of these people are nothing, nothing to say that it's good. Now, am I going to say everybody? I'm not going to say everybody. I'm not going to say everybody. There are those that have values, that have proper values. Okay. At the same time, I guarantee, even as moral as they want to be and this and that, they're going to come across people that are not. They're going to come across people that curse. They're going to come across people that do all kinds of other things. So you're going to say, I don't do that. I'm not part of that. I only want to watch them play. But there's a fundamental question. Fundamental question is, if the values are bad, they don't, they curse a lot and, do other things. So then it doesn't offset. Right? There, even a person watching it, isn't there showmanship that goes on? Sure. People trying to stick in someone else's face? 100%. People curse out there. You might not be able to hear them. Do they curse? They probably curse. A lot of things. A lot of bad values. A lot of bad values come out of it. So again, playing for exercise, I wouldn't say is a problem, per se. We all need exercise. So I was going to say, so back in the day, I'd be a gym rat. I could play basketball for hours. I haven't touched the ball in, I don't know, a long time. In a long time. So, I got a pretty strict regimen, at least when I get up on time to do it. To get exercise. I probably would like to shoot a ball here and there, right? It's just for me to go do it now. It's like a whole pain in the neck to go do it. So not really worth it, right? So I got a elliptical machine right behind me. No one can see it, but whatever, it's right behind me in this room. So I finally figured out a time where I could go on it, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, really 4 times a week, just to, get the endorphins going or whatever. But I had to find time. I don't have time. I don't have too much time. So exercise is good. It's definitely good. You need exercise. Everyone needs exercise, right? To keep the body healthy. So it keeps the soul healthy. We should eat healthy. We should, exercise, etc. Competition, so it's a lot of problems. I would love to say, that all the things I was involved in, in sports, whether it was tennis, whether it was basketball, whatever it is, I'd love to say the sportsmanship was 100%. I would love to say there's no showmanship. I would love to say there's no, what's the word? Trash talking. Doesn't that go on in a lot of sports? Goes on in a lot of sports. Trash talking. So you're going to say, well, we don't do that, or I wouldn't do that, or whatever. Again, there are a lot more negatives than positives. So in the modern Orthodox community, they'll say nothing wrong with it. It's totally nothing wrong with it. Now, let's say a person will get together, a bunch of his friends play basketball once a week. For exercise. For exercise. Is that a problem? I wouldn't necessarily say it's a problem. Right? I wouldn't say it's necessarily a problem. Would a lot of communities sanction it? No. Not at all. So here where I live, they have a gym. They have it's really for like I would say what's the word? Like elliptical machines, treadmills, these type of things, weights, as well. So, separate hours for men and women. They have a pool, people can go swimming, different ways to exercise. So someone's gonna pin me down and say, if I want to play basketball once a week, for exercise, can I do it? You can do it. Definitely can do it. I'm just saying there are issues. There are definite issues. Being in a competitive league, I would say no. I would say definitely not, even if they're all Jews. I can tell you, I was part of something, and it wasn't that much different from secular Jews, I have to say. Or sorry, secular, Jews or non-Jews, doesn't matter. Wasn't any different. I saw people trying to showboat. Saw people, trash talking. Like, that's not for us. That's not part of who we are. We don't strive to be like that. So a person can say, well, it's part of the game. Yeah, if it's part of the game, you don't play. Right? That's what I would say. Because nothing good is going to come out of it. Again, someone I know played college ball. He didn't want to go into detail. Did not even want to go into detail what people talked about, players he played with. People can use their imagination. It's not, this is not rocket science. Right? So I said, oh, you must have learned a lot of things. I said, I guarantee no one ever spoke, no one ever cursed, or no one ever spoke Lashon Hara. I said, ha. Come on. That's what competition can do. 100%. Now you're going to say, but it's all religious people. So I can make a claim, because I saw it with my own eyes, with modern Orthodox Jews, they were no different than anyone else. Now, what if you put ultra Orthodox Jews out there, do that? Are they going to be any different? I would hope so, but you don't know. Right? I would think not. But for exercise, it's good. I don't have an issue with that. But if a person is going to be constantly playing day in and day out to play well and be good and this and that, that's a different issue. Then you're wasting time. Person doing it for exercise, you have a certain amount of time, you're going to exercise very good. Right? You get the endorphins going, very good. But if you're going to spend all this time, that's like playing basketball. You're going to shoot for hours, shoot from here, try this, try that. The other thing, try and be a much better player. That's a different issue. So what about the idea of competition? There are a lot of things that are bad. Just because of what it represents. But you say, but I'm not going to do that. In the heat of battle, people know themselves. And if you're around people that don't care, then For exercise, again, I would say it's good. But it can lead to other things. It can definitely lead to other things. Someone here said my granddaughter plays basketball, but they never have a game or practice on Shabbos. So again, for exercise, they like to play. I'm just saying there are things that it leads to that are not beneficial. I'm not saying they can't. Not saying they can't. I'm just saying there are things that there are things you pick up. I can tell you firsthand. When I played basketball or played other sports, it brings out the best and the worst in people. I've seen certain things, that really unbelievable brought out the best in people. I've seen things that brought out the worst in people. So, in most, let's say in summer camps in America, for religious Jews, of course they play sport. No, it's not even an issue. It's not even an issue. Right? Okay, play one day, play another day, play this. So that's good, to a certain extent. But if you're doing it all the time, it's a different issue. Right? In America, in America, is anyone going to come out and really slam it unless you're Hasidish, probably? Really going to slam and say, it's totally forbidden? It's not. It's not. The question is what it leads to. And we're our own worst enemy. Let's make no mistake. Most people in America, I would say, kids growing up are normally sports fans. Normally. Certainly by boys. Nothing to talk about. Right? But let's, there are those that aren't. Okay. And the ones that are probably like to play. Some are better, some are not. Okay. But see, even by better kids, even kids that went to yeshiva that are, let's say better than most kids, right? Most of these kids, yeah, they played sports, they've seen movies, they, whatever, and, I can't say, maybe they're better than others. Okay. But, what are we comparing it to? So, they can talk like sports players, act like them. That's not a benefit at all. You tell me to get in exercise one thing and another, okay. Right. That I can hear. That I can hear. But a lot of people I've seen, I'm just saying personal experience. You can say, wow, it's only the people you met. Maybe other people are not that way. Okay. Right. But the vast majority of people I've seen, not very impressed. Forget about how they play. It's not even an issue how they play. I'm not saying I've seen them play, per se. Right. But I know. How do I know? Because I've been there. But you're telling me that, they came from yeshivas, okay. They dress the right way, more or less, et cetera. They're not modern, not, more modern, let's say, but they're all brought up on this. They all know everything about it. Right? So my issue and other people's issue would be, so how much Torah do you learn? If you're wasting your time with all this stuff. Right? That wasn't the question. Right? I'm just broadening the question. Right? The question is, you play a pickup game, is that a problem? No, probably not a problem. Right? Could it lead to other things that aren't good? Yeah. You do it once a week to get exercise, other people may slam you. I'm not going to say it's the worst thing in the world. Right? But, again, what values are being picked up? You take some of these kids, grew up with this stuff, saw this stuff, or, know about it and this and that. They know a heck of a lot more about that than they know about Gemara. And they know about learning. And they know about good quality, character traits. That I can say. That, that I've seen. That's pathetic. But you say that's the culture. That's the culture around. See, but they're learning a number of hours a day. Okay? That's true. But they got that in their system. It's part of their psyches, we said many times. Very hard to get out of their psyche. To learn how to change. To learn how, if you were to tell these people, I'll give an example. Most people not aware. Right? I'll give an example. There's an Isser in the Torah. It's forbidden in the Torah. The the forbiddenness is called lo sechane. What does lo sechane mean? Two definitions. One is can't let a non-Jew own land in Israel, right? Can't give him property in Israel. Not going to go there. So, forget about what goes on in the land of Israel today, right? There's another aspect. Lo sechane means you don't give them chen. You don't show them grace. You don't say, oh, this non-Jew, TB12, Tom Brady, look how great he is, right? Forbidden for a Jew to say such a thing. Non-Jew, for Noah, it wouldn't be forbidden per se, right? For a Jew, why, what are you doing? This person, let's say, they have all this talent. Okay, so what? So you're praising somebody who can hit a ball, or can shoot a ball, or can shoot a puck, or kick a ball, or run really fast. Okay? So you can say, wow, look at the talent God gave them, and look at how much they worked, and this and that, and they were working. Okay. Is that something we should emulate? I wrote an essay in college in an English comp, about the work ethic of Larry Bird. Anyone who knows who Larry Bird is, the power forward for the Boston Celtics, played in the 1980s, early 90s, probably one of the best players ever to play the game, right? So I wrote about his work ethic, and how much he trains, how much he shots, shoot 1,000 free throws a day, work on that, work on other things, right? One of the best players ever to play the game. I don't think anyone would disagree, right? But at the same time, okay, so I wrote about his work ethic. Now, let's apply that to Torah, right? You have to emulate or look into somebody who knows how to shoot a basket, and knows how to play so well in order to, you want to emulate that work ethic. So you can say, okay, I want to apply that to Torah. Right? I want to sit there and learn 12 hours a day, never take a break, never get tired, work on this, work on that. Okay. There's what to emulate. Emulate what he does. To say what a great thing it is. He shoots the basket. Again, people are going to think this is this is fanaticism 101 or 101A. I grew up with this stuff. I know what it is. Right? Take your whole life just to get it out of your system. Right? So you're gonna say, what's the big deal? Look at that work ethic. Look at how much they've done in this and that. Who the heck cares? What do we care? Did this, did that, won this award, won the championship this time, that time. What difference does it make in the world? Doesn't. The Torah comes out pretty harsh. You tell modern Orthodox Jews, or people that quote unquote call themselves ultra-Orthodox Jews, they're gonna poo-poo this. You're going to say, yeah, but what a great athlete. Torah says you're not allowed to say that. That's forbidden. But what about what you want to gain from it? There's nothing to gain. That's what the Torah says. There's nothing to gain. So what? It's any Orthodox kid, except that maybe if they grew up in Williamsburg, or a few other places. You know who LeBron James is? Everybody knows. Everybody knows. You know who Tom Brady is? Everybody knows. Why? We know why. We want to emulate who they are. Even the best of them. Best of them. Kids out of wedlock, divorced twice, 3 times. You're going to say, I don't care about all that. None of that matters. I care how he shoots a ball. No, they go hand in hand. Totally go hand in hand. You want to emulate someone, who's close to God, who keeps Torah mitzvahs, or is a Noahide. Someone who should be respected for what they do, for their closeness and how they work on themselves. I'm going to sit there and respect someone who kicks a ball. I'm going to have all this, someone who's an actor, can act and sing 10 times better than me in 10 lifetimes. That's what I want to emulate. That's what I want to be like. I'm saying this is the problem. This is the problem. Is that because they're surrounded by the society. Society is very strong. It's all around. And if you're not a sports fan, woe to you. Especially if you live in America. Woe to you, you're not a sports fan. Okay, you find other things to do, but sports is like a huge business, huge industry. I was all bad, and I knew a few people here and there, like, forget not being good at sports, that's another issue. But just like weren't into it. And I was like, never, it's a terrible thing. How can you not be into sports? It doesn't matter. Your team wins, loses, but like, it's it. I'm not gonna say it's not interesting. I'm not gonna say it's not fun. Right? You're getting the wrong message. That's the point. Following this stuff, people know statistics up the gazoo, myself included. All that garbage. What's it worth? What's it worth? We're in this world. King David says in Psalm 90. Right? We're here now for 70 years. We have strength 80 years. You wasted your mind with that. There are people who can tell you statistics, things that happened 20 years ago, 10 years ago, this, that. Wasted. Now, again, that's not the topic here. I just want to tell you how far it goes. Right? I'm not even going to say it's a slippery slope. I'm not even going to say that. It's something addictive. Even if your team's not good, you follow other teams, this, that. You watch the highlights, interesting. It's fun. Total 100% waste of time. That there's no question, right? So that's just the bigger picture. I'm not saying someone who just plays a pickup game once a week, is that going to be a problem? I'm not going to get into this. I'm not saying not, right? That's not the point, right? The point is that you're right. Someone's going to lose. I would agree 100%. Someone's going to lose. Could that bring about bad feelings? Could. But if you win, so it's no big deal, right? But if it could bring out bad feelings, doesn't necessarily mean it's forbidden, right? Even kids play a pickup game, let's say in school, during recess. Someone's going to be in a winning team, someone's going to be in a losing team. But it can get nasty. It can get nasty. I'm not saying the person gets hurt, or other things like that. It can get nasty. So, technically speaking, can a person do it? Yeah. You gotta, but if you're gonna play, you gotta be very careful. You gotta be very careful. And if a person's halfway decent and this and that, there's ego involved, or ego, as we say here. Right. So again, can someone play if it's not on Shabbos? If it's a child play. So again, I would say like this: if it's a non-Jew, they want to do it. They can do it. If it's a Jew, I definitely would not encourage. I definitely would not encourage. Playing against other teams. It doesn't lead to good things. You're gonna say, but what about girls? Girls don't have to learn as much. I mean, they have to learn, but they don't have as greater obligation. So for them, it's not a waste of time. Okay. It depends what they need also. When I lived in New Jersey, so they rented out for girls, one night a week, they rented out a gym, for girls to play, all kinds of things. Okay. If it's what a person needs, it's one thing, but, doing it, is a whole thing, and, making school against school and different things, that's, that I would say is another issue. In the secular world, I'd be laughed off the stand here. I think, come on, this is totally square. This is religious coercion, 101, but we're living according to the morals that the Torah gave us. Morality is a huge thing. And if it's something that's going to take you away from that, it's bad. I'll give one example. There was a basketball player years ago, many years ago. And some fan, was heckling them. You probably can't imagine, right? Was saying all these, terrible things and how you stink and you can't do this, you can't do that. So this person either having a bad game or just got annoyed or whatever the case is, obviously took offense. So what did he do? So what did this guy do? He spit on him, right? Problem is he missed. He missed and hit a 4-year-old girl. I got a lot of publicity. You want to emulate someone like that who can shoot a ball? I'm saying watching it, you can get bad values from. I'm not even talking immorality. Right? I'm not even talking, let's say there are no cheerleaders there and there's, people are dressed properly and this and that. Okay. Right? Even watching it, even listening to it, it's all Lashon Hara. Right? Sports talk radio, it's all Lashon Hara. Oh, this person should have done this, should have done that. It's all Lashon Hara across the board. So listening to that stuff should also be forbidden. You say, okay, I won't listen to it. I'll turn off the sound. Again, what are the values that we want? Again, that's not part of the question. I'm just saying this is a broader question, right? What values do we want? If you're going to tell me a person's going to come out the same and they're going to play and they're going to be exactly the same, as they were when they started, okay? I could hear. I heard a great rabbi once say, someone asked him, about sending his kids to university, to college. He said, yeah, I'll send them. If I would know 100%, they're going to go in and come out as moral, if not more moral, then I'll send them. Is that the case? No. Is that close? No. They're bad values, right? They're bad values. So again, I wouldn't necessarily worry about negative feelings. Someone's going to lose, right? Someone is going to lose, right? That I don't think that's necessarily something you have to worry about, right? It's what it's what other people do and what it could affect you. Like Reb Brevner, blessed memory, used to say, someone who grew up in America, take them their whole life to get that garbage out of their head. It's true. 100% true. Someone who grew up as, sports, we'll use as an example. You followed sports, you watch this, that. Get it out of your system. It's, you'll take a lot of Torah to get it out of your system. Right? But again, saying this person shot a good basket, why should I say, wow, this person knows so much Torah? This person's so moral. This person's so, someone to be emulated. Someone who shoots 1,000 free throws a day. You can say, wow, what a unbelievable work ethic. I should emulate that. That's going to make me a better person. It's going to make me closer to God. Maybe it'll make me a better player. Maybe. I mean, I'm over the hill anyway, but, maybe that would do that. Maybe. But, it's what it could lead to. So for recreation in general, a person wants to shoot a ball, this and that, not a problem. You want to play a pickup game also. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a huge problem. I'm just saying you gotta be careful, but there's a bigger issue. There's a broader issue over here. Someone asks, what if you look at it means one wins, one loses, from perspective that someone has more than you, and be grateful. Yeah, what's the problem? The problem is nobody feels good when they lose. I don't know too many people, that, okay, in hockey games at the end of the game, what do? They go in the line, they shake each other's hands. The one who won probably feel a heck of a lot better than the one that lost, and depending on how they lost, maybe they got blown out, right? Maybe they lost by 6 goals. Or in a basketball game, they're talking to the other side, after the game or whatever, and they blew them out by 30 points. I'm sure the ones that lost feel great. Like, oh, it's going to build up courage, and okay, they got to psych themselves up in different ways, right? But most people, they don't like to lose. I'm sure most people don't like to lose, especially if someone's used to winning, right? But you're gonna say, but it's all fun. It's not necessarily all fun. Anyone who's gone to a camp or whatever, and they had cohort, and you had like a whole week of activities. Nobody liked to lose any event, but nobody wanted to be on the losing side. When I went to camp, right? They, they split for a week. Camp split up into 2 teams. etc. And, they bring everyone back together at the end, but there's a team that wins, a team that loses, and you build up that whole week or whatever, and then you lose, right? If it's all done for the sake of fun, very good, and you can appreciate, okay, some people are better, some people not, this, that, whatever the case is. Tell somebody who worked very hard, did all these props for the play, they end up losing the play split by, let's say, 20 points, 10 points, whatever, and then they end up losing the whole thing. I don't think they feel so good. Maybe they feel good about what they did. Nobody likes to lose. I'm not saying you don't have people that are good losers. No, I'm not going that far. I'm just saying people don't like to lose. So it's hard to see the other perspective. And let's say you poured your heart out and you lost. You did everything for your team and you lost. Vince Lombardi. Anyone know Vince Lombardi, right? Old coach of the Green Bay Packers. Vince Lombardi won a number of Super Bowls. But he made a statement. He said, there's nothing worse than finishing second. In other words, you make it to the final game and then you lose. He says there's no worse feeling in the world. So you want to put a spin on it. So I would say, but you beat 27 other teams. You're better than 27 other teams except one. And what did Vince Lombardi say? No. Vince Lombardi said that there's nothing worse than that feeling. I can think of a lot of things that are worse than that. Think about teams that didn't make the playoffs. Think about teams that are going to get the number one pick because of the worst team in the league. They're number 27. I think that's pretty bad. They're not going to feel good about themselves. But you finish 27 out of 28. That's like 97%, percentile, right? Whatever it is. I'll do the math here, right? It's 96.4%. They did better than 96.4%. I think it's pretty good. Depends what your standards are, right? So if you think you're going to win every year, and you got the team to win every year, and the one year you finish second, or you finish third, oh, that's worse. Nothing worse than finishing second. What do you mean? So you put a spin on it. Yeah, you finished second, but you finished better, 96%. 96.4%. If Vince Lombardi was here today, if he was alive today, what would he say? Same exact thing. I finished second, nothing worse than that. Not about perspective, per se, right? You'll say, well, you gave it your best shot. Yeah, but you lost. Person studies for a test. They gave it their best shot. They studied, they memorized this and that, and they got a 78. Doesn't show the effort they put in. Could be in one of these things, you showed all the effort, did everything possible, carried the team on your back, and you lost. You could have lost by 10 points. Could have lost by more. Could have lost by 3. Doesn't matter. You get the L. You get the loss. Right? You could tell me you could spin it in a positive way. You could. You very well could. Right? I've met very few people in life that like to lose. That have been ecstatic when they lost. I'm not saying ecstatic. Whatever. That's, when they lost, they didn't feel bad. I don't know too many people like that. Are there people like that? Could be. When people play and they get competitive, what happens? They want to win. Right? Again, I can say it by any board game. They're no different. Person doesn't necessarily want to lose. Who wants to play Risk and then be thrown out of the game? They got attacked on 4 sides. And then, that's it. Okay, it's part of the game. It's part of the game. But see, I would say when it's more of like a physical game, and you put your best foot forward and you come up with a goose egg and you lose, or you lose big, I don't think they feel so good, right? Now, person can say, person can work on that, come against their negative, feel. You're right. But a lot of people don't like to lose. They don't like to lose. Right? So a lot of negative things can come up. Someone points out the granddaughter had a lot of practice losing gracefully. Okay. Builds character. True. I'm not denying that. Definitely, it definitely can build character. The question is, does it make people better or worse? That's the question. Right? So you could argue that. You ever see professional athletes act positive when they lose? You ever see LeBron when he loses? Gets knocked out of the playoffs? I don't think he likes it very much. Doesn't matter how many times he's won or not. People don't like to lose. And they'll blame people, they'll say things. If a person's younger, okay, but again, competition is what it is. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. If a person can lose gracefully, good. They have good character traits, good. I don't know everybody that has them. I'm not saying everybody does. I think just the opposite. I think a lot of people don't. And they don't have sportsmanship. They don't have proper sportsmanship. Again, I'm not saying across the board. People can totally prove me wrong. Say, no, this is like this. I'm like, okay, could be. Could very well be. I just seen that, the negative of it, and not as much as a positive. But why does this happen? Because you're caught up in the game. You're caught up in the moment. But what does the Torah want? Torah doesn't want that. Torah wants you to be in charge at all times. In charge of your mood, in charge of what you say, what you think, how you act. I'm just saying these things can lead you down a slippery slope. Someone asks, is it a sin in Torah to be competitive? No. When it comes to Torah, everyone's competitive. Go into yeshiva, everyone wants to be the number one guy. Sometimes it's too competitive, and people get burnt out. They want to be the number one guy, number one learner. Someone stays up the latest, someone who learns the most, etc. So that can bring greatness to someone. Can also destroy people, at the same time. So competition to light a fire under a person is good. That I don't think is bad. It can lead to bad things, but when it comes to learning, there's tremendous competition. Getting into yeshiva is also a competition. Only the best yeshivas are going to take the best guys. People are not going to cut it. Not everyone's going to be able to get in. You want to get into the Harvard of yeshivas. There's a selection process. Not going to just take anyone. They want to take the cream of the crop. Whether it's right or not, that's a whole different issue. That's a whole different topic. Right? But there's tremendous competition. Right? So even if a person wins, you're going to tell me, Shabbos, don't trash talk. Okay. If it doesn't create negative feelings, so you're righteous. You're totally righteous. Can it happen? I'm not saying it can't. I'm just saying, in all probability, the person's not going to come out squeaky clean. Can they? They sure can. But again, it's the heat of the moment. I'm not saying, everyone's going to sit there and trash talk. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying what it could lead to. And if it doesn't, very good. Very good. Someone asks, why is Shabbos 25 hours? Shabbos, we take in early. We take in a little bit early because you want to add on the holiness of Friday to go into Shabbos, right? So Shabbos will come in a little, we'll take in, at least in the States, they take it in, let's say 20 minutes before sundown. We take it in here 40 minutes, let's say 40 minutes before sundown, right? So we want to, so there's a halacha that we add on to the holiness before the holiday starts, right? Before Shabbos starts, right? So you want to add on a little bit, right? So therefore you're going to have, let's say 20 minutes before sundown, and you're going to have 30 minutes, to say the evening service, 20 minutes, 30 minutes after sundown. You're right. You're adding about 50 minutes, an hour. You don't go into Shabbos right at sundown, right? The rabbis wanted you to, take a step back, and just take a little bit of time, to infuse, the spiritual aspect of Shabbos instead of just rushing into it and just taking it in, the exact time. So that's why it's longer. That's why it's a little bit longer. Let me see. There are other questions here. Somebody asks, what was the mindset of Israel when they crossed the Jordan? Was it a mindset? Listen, they've been promised the whole time. God promises them you're going to go in the promised land. Moses hit the rock instead of speaking to the rock, so he got denied going in. Right? But, there's also a little bit of fear. They're going to conquer all these nations, as well. So there's tremendous joy going in because now they're fulfilling the promise of what God said. What God said to Moses and what God said actually to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, that you're going to take over this land and you're going to go in the promised land. So that's a huge thing. But also there was, an unknown. They knew there were nations there, right? They knew there were, a number of nations there. The God says, I'm going to put them in your hand. You're going to take care of them. But still, look what happened to the spies. Spies went out. God promised you're going to be able to take care of them. And they were afraid. They look like giants. Other things, they spoke Lashon Hara. Right? Spoke Lashon Hara against the land of Israel. Look what happened. We're paying for that every year on Tisha B'Av. All these calamities happen on Tisha B'Av because of that. Right? So they went in, great joy on the one hand, fear on the other. right? But still fulfilling that promise when they cross the Jordan. That's why I say someone asked, sports came from the Greeks, right? Right, also bad, right? Worship of the body, different ways. That's what they brought to the world. Definitely what the Greeks brought to the world as well. Definitely true. Someone mentions someone isn't religious, but is a nice person. They have tremendous anger. Can you pray 3 times a day in synagogue to help them? You can pray at home to help them, right? But yeah, you have to realize one thing. There are 2 opinions when it comes to praying for somebody that's not holding anywhere by Torah mitzvahs, whether it's a Jew or a non-Jew. Now, some would say you can pray for them, have in mind for them, have God help them, and God can do anything, right? So, on the one hand, we should pray for people, to change, to be better, different things. On the other hand, the Brisker Rav, Israel's Zev Soloveitchik of blessed memory, son of Rav Chaim Brisker, said if you want to pray for someone, they have to be a vessel to be able to accept the prayer. Meaning, if they're not holding anywhere in the world, he would say praying for them is a waste of time. Total waste of time. Why? Because even if God would bring down the spiritual influence to help them, there's no one there to take it. They're not holding anywhere in the world, right? That's so. Brisker Rav would say it's a waste of time. So I would say probably many rabbinic authorities would disagree with the Brisker Rav on this and say, yeah, we can pray for people, pray for them to change, be religious, whatever, go in the right path. It doesn't mean we're going to get answered, but again, the Brisker Rav would say not that way. So you're going to ask me, can you do it? You can do it. Should do it. Try and help them. Is that a guarantee? I wouldn't say it's a guarantee. I would agree with what the Brisker Rav says. You need a vessel to be able to, anyone here is a vessel wants to be makabel. They want to accept what the Torah says, what the mitzvahs are, to the best of their ability. But if you don't want to be, so how's God's influence going to help? Right? Like the Brisker Rav said, someone came to him from America and said, if God would do more open miracles, and that's really the point, if God would do open miracles, they would change. He said, no. He said they're not going to change. Why not? Because they're going to try and think of different ways how it happened. And they're going to think that, like the Brisker Rav said, you have to be a vessel. You have to want to see. If you don't want to see, God can do a miracle in front of your face. It's not going to help. It's not going to change. It's not going to change a person. Right? So I don't think anyone is that far gone. I think some are, but many are not that far gone. So if that's the case, you can always pray for them. And miracles can happen. Miracles can happen. You don't have to go to synagogue today. You can do it at home. Pray for them at home also. Is it better to go to synagogue? Could be. You're in a holier place, true. But you don't necessarily have to. Someone said, what should one get first if one wants to convert? A basin or a community? Community. A basin you can always find. Doesn't matter if it's not a rabbinical court in your community. You need to be in a community. That's the first thing. If there's a rabbinical court in that community, very good. If there's not, go other places. Right? You go to a different, rabbinical court. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to live in a place where there's a rabbinical court. Right? But the most important thing is finding a community. That's for sure. That is for sure. Someone has to exalt the Hashem, right? Why did they exalt? Because again, they're fulfilling what God said. That God's going to give them, because God's going to give them the land. They're now fulfilling that prophecy. Right? So they sang. It's a tremendous time of joy. I was just pointing out there's also a certain element of fear because of the nations that are there, but they're fulfilling that divine prophecy. Of course they're going to be exalted, right? No different than when they cross the sea, when they cross the Reed Sea. They're going to feel that exaltedness, right? That, that great joy. Is there an element of fear? I'm sure. I'm sure there were people there that had fear because of the other nations that were there. But to fulfill the prophecy that God said he's going to do, and now he's doing it, huge. That's huge. Yeah, let me see. There are other questions here. Someone asked to know, I don't know the purpose of Elijah's chair in the shul or yeshiva. Elijah's chair is that Elijah spoke against the Jewish people in a negative way, and he chastised the Jewish people, and for mitzvahs they weren't doing. So God said, sort of a punishment. He said every time there's a circumcision, there's a bris, you're gonna go to every single bris. There's gonna be a spark of you. You're gonna have to go to every single bris. You're gonna tell me, the Jewish people they're not doing this, not doing that. What about circumcision? What about the Mesiris Nefesh, the self-sacrifice for circumcision? So God, as punishment, sends them to every single bris. That's why they have a special chair, but the chair also is representative of what? It's like giving a sacrifice. Like putting it's like an altar. Right? So the person who acts as a sandik, the one that holds the baby, it's called the sandik. You don't have a secular Jew do it. You're going to say, but what if it's the grandfather? They deserve the honor, this and that. Again, you're putting all the spirituality into the child. Even if you don't think that. The thoughts of who the person of the sandik is, that's going to go into the child. You want the child to have fear of heaven, to be a big learner, to be a rabbinic scholar, this and that. If you have somebody that's a great Shabbos who knows what they're thinking, it can go into the child. What's the proof? The proof is by Elisha ben Abuya, by known as Acher, the other one. Because when he was born, his father was close to many prominent people in Rome, and a lot of the rabbis came. When a lot of the rabbis came, they sat and learned. They were learning, and a pillar of fire came down, surrounded them. So Elisha ben Abuya's father said, "Hey, come in to burn down my house." They said, "No, this is the power of Torah. Protect it, fire, this, that." So Elisha ben Abuya's father said, if that's the power of Torah, I want that for my son. And he's the one that held his son at the bris. So that was his thought. And we see from that, Elisha ben Abuya, one of the greatest rabbinic scholars of all time, was on the Sanhedrin, became a heretic. How did he become a heretic? That's where it started. Person's going to say, it doesn't matter, it's no big deal, it's this, it's that. No. The thoughts of a person can have an effect. So if it's considered like an altar, you're going to have someone who desecrates Shabbos and eat shrimp, sit on the altar, hold that child? No. Not at all. Right? So I use the same sandik twice. I used my Rebbe twice, two of my kids, 15 years apart. I wasn't taking any chances. Went with the best, so to speak. You use someone, if the father, keeps Shabbos or whatever, yes, so we should get the honor. So we get an honor, no question. That's the honor. That's the biggest honor. True. They should get that honor. But if you can't give it to them, say they're not Jewish or certainly not religious, can't give it to them. Right? It's nothing personal, but there's a lot at stake here spiritually. You don't want just, someone who eats shrimp and desecrated Shabbos sitting there. Because their thoughts can have an effect. We may not see it. We may not fathom it. You can say it's hocus pocus and all that. Okay, go eat kogo if you want. But that's the case. That's what the Gemara says. That's what happened to Elisha ben Abuya. Right? He was on the Sanhedrin. Knew 70 languages. Unbelievable rabbinic scholar. The Rebbe or Rebbe Meir. Became a heretic. Right? So the Gemara asks the question, how to become a heretic? It's a whole story. But there's another Gemara that tells this story with what happened to his father. And that, I'm just shortening the story, but that negativity, that was the effect. That caused eventually Elisha ben Abuya to be a heretic. So that's what the chair represents. It's the chair of Elijah. It's the chair of Elijah. That's what it is. Considered like an altar, and therefore he has to come to every bris. He has to come to every circumcision. right? That's punishment. Someone asks, is there a Litvak Haredi community in Canada? Yeah, there's in Toronto. Toronto has a lot, has many different communities there. I think Montreal is more Hasidic, but I think Montreal also has a Litvak Haredi community. Outside of Montreal and Toronto, there are smaller communities. There are smaller communities, a community in Edmonton, a community in Ottawa, but whatever, they're pretty small. That's what I would say on that. Somebody asks, if you're not married, man, don't live with family. Do you have to light candles, cover your eyes? Yeah. You should. Even if you don't accept Shabbos. Right? Or let's say better. Since you're not accepting Shabbos, let's say, I'll say the opposite. If you're not accepting Shabbos, which most men are not going to accept Shabbos until they pray, usually, then they would not have to cover their legs. Cover their eyes. Women do it so they don't get benefit from the light, and then they take on Shabbos. That would be the difference. Somebody asked if you found a community, but the Rebbe said stop because she hasn't found a beis din yet. That's a different issue. That's a different issue. If a rabbi accepted in that community, even if she goes to that synagogue, let's say, okay, they haven't found a beis din, so what? I mean, it's not impossible to find a beis din. Not every community has a beis din, so what do? What if you live in a community? There's no rabbinical court. Find one. You can go anywhere. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. You have to find a rabbinical court willing to do the conversion, even if you don't live within that city. Now, some places will say you have to live here in order to do it. Some will not. I know someone who is somewhere in Australia. They ended up going 3-4 hours to a rabbinical court to convert, even though they lived in their community because there's no rabbinical court. So they knew the rabbi they were working with and other things, and it worked out. Right? So you have to see. You have to find a rabbinical court willing to do it. Some may say you have to live in this city. I mean, a lot of rabbinical courts not going to do that necessarily. If they have good references in the city where you live. Right? So, question is, rabbi accepted in that community, even if she had not found a beis din, that doesn't matter. Finding a beis din is not the first thing I would do. Other people would disagree. They say the first thing you got to do is find a beis din. What difference does it make? Beis din's not going to do anything for you anyway. Right? If you haven't lived in a community for very long, what are they going to do for you? Give you a bunch of books to read? Maybe they'll give you a mentor till you come back in 3 months. What are they going to do for you? Right? I would say if you live in a community, you should eventually contact a beis din. You should contact a rabbinical court, but that's not a priority. That's not the first thing. Right? But the Rebbe didn't. Who should you listen to? Even if the rabbi accepted her, again, what does that have to do with the rabbinical court? You could be accepted in a community without going to rabbinical court. By being accepted in the synagogue. Doesn't mean I have to be accepted by a rabbinical court. I think, a rabbi of a synagogue will tell that person to go to beis din. They should contact a rabbinical court, I think for sure, and they'll work hand in hand. True. But just because you didn't have a rabbinical court doesn't mean you did the wrong thing. Who said you need a rabbinical court first thing? I wouldn't tell people to do that anyway. Right? If someone found, a rabbi to deal with them, and there's, and they're allowed to go to the synagogue and this and that, what does that have to do with the rabbinical court? That comes later. Can come later. Other people disagree and say you got to find a rabbinical court first. I don't hold that way. I don't think it's true. Because the rabbinical court's not going to do anything for you anyway. At some point, should you be in contact with a rabbinical court? Yeah. But if you've been learning for a while, and you're in the synagogue, you come in much stronger if you go to a rabbinical court later than at the beginning. But again, if a person wants to, they can. It doesn't just because the rabbi accepts you in synagogue, again, that has nothing to do with the rabbinical. And what if there is no rabbinical court in that city? So you're right. You're going to have to find a rabbinical court to convert. That's true. That is true. That's not a contradiction, right? I wouldn't say that's a contradiction, right? You listen to what the rabbi says. Usually the rabbi knows better, If he says, wow, you need to go to rabbinical court first. Okay, then you're gonna try and find a rabbinical court. Somebody mentioned about Toronto, and I answered that. Yeah, let me see other questions. 1 second. Yeah, someone here asks, why does the Torah say, I read last week, that a son should be like Menashe and Ephraim? Why not like Reuben and Shimon, etc. Right. So one answer is that what are we looking at over here? Looking at character, right? Looking at character of a person. Both are raised in Egypt. Ephraim and Menashe are both raised in Egypt. Torah remains faithful to their morals or ideals, that were given over by the grandfather, so to speak, and that's what we want for our kids. For them to be, like them. So that's one possible reason. In other words, you want to be part of a great people. You want to emulate great people, right? You want to emulate people that maintain such a high level, right? And Joseph was, everyone knows, or if you don't know, you'll know now. Egypt was the epitome of immorality, totally the epitome of immorality, right? So to stay pure in a place that is full of immorality is a huge thing, right? It's a huge thing. So one reason is because they remain faithful to their morals, right, through their father. So that's the reason we bless them and say, be like Ephraim and Menashe. That is one. That's one potential reason. Are there other reasons? Yeah. Right. Some say also that this relationship, the brother relationship, was associated with jealousy. There's a lot of jealousy there, right? You had with Cain and Abel. You had Yitzhak and Ishmael, Yaakov and Esau, Joseph and the brothers. So they also, Ephraim and Menashe also had that ability, to have this problem, as well. Menashe could have felt, animosity, could have soured their, relationship. So too, we bless our children that it should be like that, filled with understanding, respect, and love. Right? Another potential answer. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop there. Just every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Israel Time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com.